The Rings of Power is not succeeding. It's not entertaining. It's probably getting horrible viewership numbers, and it's not well made. The practical effects look cheap. The creative choices are perplexing. The pacing is abysmal. The dialogue is an atrocious parody of its source material, and the acting is ham-fisted. How did it come to this? While the showrunners weren't handed literally everything, it came pretty close. They had hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on the best effects, actors, and writers they could find, and they had the backing of one of the largest corporations in the world to market it. The only thing they didn't have was the audience. From the day promo material and trailers began to drop, the backlash to the show skyrocketed. Even so, the actual show could still have won over many of its detractors, much like its competition House of the Dragon did, if it had actually been good. And yet, The Rings of Power isn't good. The Rings of Power is really, really bad. So, again, how did this happen? Well, in my opinion, there are three main reasons behind the abomination that is The Rings of Cringe. Hubris. The first of the three great issues dooming The Rings of Power to cringe is hubris, or arrogance. Put plainly, the showrunners and writers are not interested in Tolkien's story and world. I find that this is unfortunately a very common trait in bad adaptations. Most of the time, they are bad because the writers would much rather impose their own beta version on the built-in audience. Of course, this almost always backfires, seeing as the built-in audience is built in because they like the original version of the story. Yet, if only hubris was the only issue with The Rings of Cringe. The writers don't care. They don't care about the story they are writing. They don't care about the world they are building. And they don't care about the audience invested in the original story. Rarely, admittedly, there comes along an adaptation that is vastly different from its source material, yet still manages to both tell a great story and be very successful. And the reason this happens is because on those occasions, the writers do to some extent care. The writers of The Rings of Cringe don't care. You can feel the lack of passion in the details, like when in episode 3, a group of captured elves attempt to break free by piling their chains on top of each other and then hitting the chains. You can feel the lack of passion in the plot armor that protects Discount Legolas and this kid. I don't remember his name and I don't bloody care. Anyway, there's a third and final issue with The Rings of Power. Inferiority. The writing of The Rings of Power is terrible, and the writers know it is terrible. This is why there have been so many cringeworthy callbacks to the Lord of the Rings books and trilogy. It's why the discount hobbits sing, "Not all who wander are lost." It's why in the first episode, Cringe Ladriel and co. reenact the Mines of Moria sequence, and it's why Discount Legolas has this relationship with a human woman. It all comes down to the writers attempting to trick the audience into thinking that the show is better than it is. The only problem is the audience isn't having it. So, to sum it up, in my opinion, The Rings of Power isn't working because it is the quintessential bad adaptation. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.